Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. I took care of Ryan while he was in a coma for 5 years. When he woke up, he hated me to the core. During those 5 years of his unconsciousness, my soul had always lingered beside Emily. Those were the happiest days of my life. Why did you get in the way of my happiness? You should die. He had someone dig a pit and buried me alive, standing there watching as I struggled to my death, only to be reborn again. I returned to the day Ryan regained consciousness. Without the slightest hesitation, I turned around and walked away, leaving under his stunned, helpless gaze. This time I'll let you have your happiness. Suddenly, I woke up on a bench in the airport terminal. My phone was vibrating nonstop. It was message after message from Ryan. I'm awake. I don't care where you are. Show up in front of me within 3 minutes. Lynn, you're __ dead. I stared at the screen for a long time before realizing I had truly come back to life. Still disoriented, another message popped up. Where's Emily? I want to see her. I stared blankly at the screen as my heart turned to ice. Both Emily and I were canaries Ryan kept in golden cages. The reason Ryan ended up in a coma for 5 years was because of Emily. She demanded that Ryan drive away all other women for her. The two of them had a huge argument. To appease her, Ryan bid against someone at an auction for a 106-carat pear-shaped yellow diamond, because Emily's birthday was October 6th. Ryan lost the bid and offered to buy it, but the offer was rejected. Enraged, he suffered a sudden heart attack. Though he was saved, he fell into a vegetative state. I was the one who cared for the unconscious Ryan, watching over him for 5 years. But when Ryan finally woke up, what I received wasn't a love that came after years of waiting. Instead, it was his hysterical revenge. He had people kidnap me and bury me alive. No matter how I begged or struggled, he simply stood at the edge of the pit, looking down coldly from above. During those 5 years, my soul had followed Emily closely. That was my happiest time. Why did you bring me back? The hatred on his face burned my 5 years of devotion into ashes. I held back the sting in my eyes. Suddenly, someone appeared before me. Miss Lynn. I looked up. It was Dr. Ethan Moore, the internationally renowned neurologist whom the Miller family had hired at great expense. He had a lean figure and a cold, distant demeanor. That expression on his face made me momentarily dazed. Ryan had looked at me the same way, detached and indifferent. The only smile he ever had was for Emily. I drove Ethan to the Miller estate. On the way, Ryan's phone connected to the car's audio system and started ringing. Once answered, everyone could hear his voice. I didn't want to pick up, but Ryan kept calling again and again relentlessly. I had no choice but to accept the video call. When Ryan saw Ethan sitting in the passenger seat, his face instantly darkened. Who's that man next to you? I quickly lowered the volume, but I couldn't keep up with Ryan's sharp words. Out of sight, you already found someone new, acting all pure and innocent with me, then turning around and seducing another guy, Lynn. You're such a __. Ethan raised an eyebrow. I gripped the steering wheel, my whole body prickling like needles amidst the suffocating awkwardness. Ian suddenly spoke calmly into the phone. Mr. Miller, congratulations on waking up, but your brain is still in a fragile state. It's best not to get too emotional. Otherwise, you might suffer paralysis or fall into a coma again. Ryan's face instantly turned pale, but Ethan remained composed. For example, your current emotional state could easily cause another episode. Ryan abruptly ended the call. When we arrived at the Miller estate, Ethan announced that Ryan had made a full recovery. Mrs. ER burst into tears, hugging Ryan tightly, but Ryan remained cold and emotionless, staring icily at Ethan and me. I stood outside the door and didn't go in. In my previous life, when I heard Ryan had woken up and was asking for me, I rushed in overjoyed, only for him to grab a vase nearby. The vase smashed down on my head. Shards scattered across the floor, and blood streamed from the gash. My head was bleeding profusely. In my ears, I could still hear Ryan's hysterical roar. Who told you to wake me up? Do you have any idea those 5 years were the happiest time of my life? Lynn, you ruined my happiness. Why didn't you just die? Warm blood trickled down my forehead. I looked at Ryan, my heart completely shattered. This time, faced with the exact same scene, I turned and walked away. The butler outside the door looked startled by my unusual calm. I quietly said, "Please tell Mrs. Miller that my task is complete. It's time to say goodbye." I left decisively without looking back. Everyone thought I had volunteered to care for Ryan for the sake of repaying a favor or currying favor with the Miller family. Even Ryan believed that. But the truth was, I only wanted to repay the debt I owed him. Back then, I was still a model on the rise. During a major runway show, I accidentally caught the heel of my shoe in a hole on stage and fell flat on my back. My ankle twisted at a grotesque angle. The entire venue erupted in shock. In my earpiece, I could hear the organizer's panicked voice shouting, "Lynn, get up now. This show is being broadcast live worldwide. Can you afford to pay for this?" As I lay there trembling in pain, Ryan suddenly rushed onto the stage, dressed in a black suit, face cold and sharp. He took off his jacket and covered me with it, then scooped me up in his arms and carried me off stage. Later, the organizers, both angry and upset, said they would sue me for breach of contract, demanding an outrageous compensation that would have left me bankrupt. But Ryan stood in front of me and said coolly, "She's with me. If you want compensation, take it up with me." With just that, the head of the Miller Group had spoken. The organizers didn't dare say another word, and the whole matter was quietly settled. Although I escaped the huge penalty, my right ankle had suffered a comminuted fracture. My modeling career was effectively over. Just as I was cornered with nowhere to go, Ryan brought me to his villa. He looked down at me from above and said, "Be my lover. I'll give you a life without worries." And just like that, I became Ryan's canary. Ryan was generous. He gave me lots of money and gifted me all kinds of exquisite, expensive jewelry and designer bags. I didn't know how to act like a proper canary, so I studied hard with private tutors, learning to cook steak just the way he liked it, learning how to gently help him to bed at night, carefully wiping him down and dressing him in soft pajamas. After 3 years of staying by his side, one day he looked at the long scar on my ankle and asked, "Do you still want to be a model?" The moment I heard that, tears flooded my eyes. After that, Ryan arranged for the best doctors to perform reconstructive surgery. While I could never return to the runway, my leg looked perfectly normal again. He even helped me open a modeling training studio, so I could restart my career. My feelings for him gradually turned from gratitude into love. But then Ryan met Emily in my studio. She was only 21, youthful and radiant. When I learned that Ryan had spent a fortune on her, I knew it was my cue to exit. I initiated the breakup. Ryan didn't say a word. He just turned away coldly and left me with his indifferent back. But less than a week after we broke up, Ryan fell into a vegetative state. Mrs. Miller found me and asked me to stay by his side and try to wake him. Out of gratitude for everything he had done, I agreed. Snapping back to the present, I returned to my room, packed my belongings and pulled my suitcase toward the door. But Mrs. Miller came after me, stopping me. "Lynn, I've seen with my own eyes how well you've taken care of Ryan these past 5 years. He's still not fully stable yet. If you leave now, I don't trust anyone else to care for him like you do." I stayed silent. In my previous life, faced with Mrs. Miller's pleading, I chose to stay. Later, when Emily came to visit Ryan and saw me taking care of him, her face instantly turned pale, and she ran away crying. Ryan, panicking, immediately tried to contact her on the phone. Emily sobbed and said she couldn't accept that while Ryan was in a coma, it was another woman who had cared for him all along. The thought that someone else had touched his entire body made her feel sick to her stomach. Furious over it, Ryan punished me by forcing me to kneel in the rain for an entire night. I sighed and said, "Mrs. Miller, maybe it's best if you ask Ryan what he wants." When we arrived at the hospital room, Ryan looked at me coldly. His voice was filled with contempt. "Lynn, recognize your place. Everything you did these past 5 years, you did willingly. Don't even think about using them to trade for something that was never yours to begin with." I saw the sudden change in Mrs. Grawl Miller's expression, but I calmly turned to Ryan and said, "Mr. Miller, you're mistaken. I'm only here to tell you I'm leaving." Ryan froze for a moment, then let out a cold laugh. "Cut the act, Lynn. You're pretending to leave just so I'll try to stop you. Trying to use retreat as a way to advance, huh? Just to keep hanging around me? These pathetic manipulative tricks of yours, you really have no shame. Mrs. Miller's face turned pale as she scolded him in a low voice. Ryan, Lynn is not that kind of person. But Ryan sneered. Mom, don't let her fool you. This is all just a game of push and pull. She's nothing but a greedy, scheming woman. Did you think I wouldn't see through it? I listened calmly to his cruel words. There was a time when I feared nothing more than being misunderstood by him. But now I felt absolutely nothing. Mrs. Miller, it's time I left. I grabbed my suitcase and walked out of the room without looking back. Behind me, Ryan's mocking voice rang out, still acting fine? I won't stop you. I'm curious how long you can keep up the performance. I ignored him and kept walking. Finally, he noticed something was off. His tone shifted from sarcasm to surprise, even a trace of panic. Lynn, you actually dare to leave? I opened the door and walked straight out. When I reached the underground parking garage, I headed toward my tiny electric car. Suddenly, I laughed. My little wooling compact car sat right next to a row of Lamborghinis belonging to Ryan. It was like fate itself was mocking me. We were never meant to be on the same path. I opened the car door and was about to load my suitcase when I heard footsteps behind me. Turning around, I saw Ethan Moore. His face was as cold and unreadable as ever. When he saw me, he simply gave a slight nod. Miss Lynn. I nodded back and turned to get in the car, but no matter how I tried, it wouldn't start. I looked down and realized it was out of power. Looks like I'd have to figure out how to charge it first. What's wrong? A voice called out behind me. I turned around in surprise. Ethan hadn't left yet. He adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses and said in a cool, lazy tone, If you don't mind, once I finish Ryan's examination, I can give you a ride. I stood outside the front gates with my suitcase, waiting for Ethan. The early winter wind carried a biting chill. I pulled my coat tighter and exhaled a cloud of white breath. Behind me, a sweet-sounding voice rang out. Lynn, did Ryan kick you out? I turned around and saw Emily. She was impeccably dressed, stylish and proud, with an unmistakable look of triumph in her eyes. Lynn, so what if you took care of Ryan for 5 years? He woke up, and the first person he wanted to see was still me. You worked yourself to the bone for 5 years, and now that I'm back, all you can do is leave in disgrace. So pathetic. I shook my head. I wasn't even a replacement. I had never belonged in their world. I was just an intruder who had imposed myself without invitation. I smiled faintly. You're right. I overestimated myself. That's why I'm leaving now. I wish you both the best. Just as I finished speaking, there was a loud clap. Ryan's cane had fallen to the ground, and his body stood frozen stiff. Ryan stared at me with a dark, stormy expression. Emily ran to him excitedly and threw herself into his arms. I looked away, ready to leave, but out of the corner of my eye, I saw Ryan suddenly push Emily aside and limp toward me. He stopped in front of me, his face full of rage, but he didn't say a word. He just stood there, blocking my path. This was typical Ryan. Every time he got angry, whether or not it was my fault, he would give me the silent treatment. He wouldn't let things go until I lowered my head and apologized, until he decided to forgive me. But now, I had no intention of coaxing him. I just wanted to leave. Still, he stubbornly refused to move, standing directly in my way. After going back and forth a few times, my frustration flared. He was the one who had provoked me. He was the one who hated me. And now that I wanted to walk away, he still wouldn't let me go. What exactly did he want from me? I was angry, overwhelmed, confused. Without thinking, I shoved him. Ryan's body hadn't fully recovered yet. He fell straight to the ground from that one push. The old me wouldn't have dared say a harsh word to him. And now I had actually laid hands on him. His face went pale as shock and fury flickered across his eyes. Just then, Ethan Moore's car pulled out from the garage. He gave me a short honk. I looked down at Ryan still sitting on the ground and said calmly, "Goodbye, Mr. Miller." Then I turned and got into Ethan's car. From the rearview mirror, I saw Ryan sitting there, dazed and disheveled, while Emily came running toward him in a panic. Ryan seemed to shout something in my direction, but by then, I could no longer hear him. The car window was half open, and the cold winter air blew in, clearing my head even more. Suddenly Ethan asked, "Aren't you worried? After 5 years of giving everything, you're just walking away like that." I looked at him, surprised. I didn't expect Dr. Moore to be this nosy or to care enough to ask. I shrugged. "Mrs. Miller paid me for my services. I'm not losing anything." Ethan didn't respond. He just glanced at me in the rearview mirror, his gaze lingering oddly. As we neared my home, he suddenly said, "During the follow-up exam, I found that Mr. Miller's recovery isn't going well. His cerebellar balance is poor, and there are signs of atrophy. If he doesn't commit to proper rehabilitation, there's a chance he could collapse again. If that happens, will you come back?" I was silent for a moment, memories of my past life flashing through my mind. Back then, Ryan had just regained consciousness and was still physically weak. I advised him to stay in bed and not rush into activity. So when Emily came to visit, Ryan was still lying down. She thought he was paralyzed and putting on a performance, cried, and ran away. Ryan, humiliated, blamed me for it, and that eventually led to my tragic death. But this time, when Emily came, Ryan was already able to walk with a cane. Even if his steps were shaky, at least he could. I was certain Emily wouldn't be leaving him again. Someone would take care of him, and even if not, he was no longer my concern. Ethan said nothing more after we arrived. I stepped out of the car, and just as I turned to leave, he suddenly called out, "Miss Lynn." During his checkup, Mr. Miller told me something he said during the 5 years he was unconscious. It felt like his soul was wandering around Emily. He said he saw her running a studio, knitting sweaters, even raising a little dog named Red Bean. He said that although he was like a spirit floating above it all, those details felt incredibly real. Ethan looked at me and asked, "Miss Lynn, do you believe it's possible for the soul to leave the body in dreams?" My whole body trembled. I stared at Ethan, stunned, my heart pounding so loud it felt like it would burst from my chest. Red Bean was the name of my schnauzer. I had always loved dogs, but Ryan didn't, so every time I was with him, I had to leave Red Bean with a friend. Ryan was allergic to dog fur. Just having a dog walk past him could leave him gasping for breath. That's why he never went near cats or dogs. So why would the Emily from his dreams have a dog with the exact same name as mine, Red Bean? I felt like I had grasped onto something, but the idea was too absurd, too unbelievable to follow through. I didn't dare think deeper. Now that I had finally broken free from this relationship, I needed to make a clean break. There was no reason to dig further into the past. I composed myself and said to Ethan, "Dr. Moore, thank you for giving me a ride home. Let me treat you to a meal sometime." Ethan gave a slight smile. "All right. I wish you all the best, Miss Lynn." Then he looked at me again and said, "Miss Lynn, many people are trapped in the past, too afraid to start over. But I believe that people should have the courage to leave what's behind." I glanced at him, surprised. I hadn't expected this aloof elite doctor to be such a motivational speaker on top of everything else. My modeling studio reopened, and I quickly became busy again, recruiting students and arranging classes. I barely had time to think about anything else. Ryan probably didn't expect me to be this decisive. After all, I left behind everything he gave me. He must have thought I was just throwing a tantrum, and that I'd come crawling back in a couple of days. But when I didn't reach out at all, he started to panic. One day, after I finished teaching a class, I stepped out into the hallway and saw Ryan standing there. His face was cold as he looked at me. "Are you done acting out? If you are, then come back with me." I didn't understand what was going through his head. He clearly hated me, yet now he kept showing up like a madman, constantly disrupting my life. I'd run out of patience. "Mr. Miller, if you're that bored, go take a walk in the park. Stop interfering with my work." Ryan let out a mocking laugh. "Lynn, who are you pretending to be? Isn't this exactly what you wanted? Pushing me to say it first? Fine, you win. Come back. I'll pretend none of this ever happened." I was just about to respond when I suddenly noticed something strange about the way he was standing. My instincts kicked in. "Ryan, your spine looks off." His body stiffened. "What nonsense are you talking about?" I looked him over a few times and nodded firmly. "Your spine is visibly twisted. That's not a good sign. Have you been having lower back pain lately? You should really get checked out at a hospital. Ryan looked stunned. A vein bulged slightly on his forehead, and his face flushed red and pale in turns. Just then, hurried footsteps sounded from behind. Emily came running over and grabbed Ryan's arm, glaring at me. Lynn, you've been Ryan's nurse all this time, but you just can't stop clinging to him, can you? Have you no shame? I'm warning you, stop trying to play the homewrecker. She was in the middle of yelling when a loud bark interrupted her. Red Bean dashed out of his dog bed and ran over to stand protectively in front of me. Ryan stared blankly at the dog and blurted out, "Red Bean." Emily's heart skipped a beat when she saw the look on his face. She quickly yanked Red Bean over and said with a sneer, "This is my dog. I left him here temporarily. Who would have thought you'd even try to steal my dog too, Lynn? Do you have no shame?" I had been about to say something, but the moment I saw Ryan's face, I changed my mind. If he found out Red Bean was actually mine, he would never let it go. It would just lead to more unnecessary trouble. I didn't want to be entangled with him any longer. If Emily loved putting on a show so much, then let her act. I withdrew my hand and said lightly, "If the dog's yours, then take him." Emily froze for a moment, clearly caught off guard by my cooperation, but in the end, she didn't dare provoke me further. She turned to coax Ryan instead. "Ryan, you're still recovering. Go downstairs and wait for me. I'll be there soon." Ryan looked deeply unwilling but still stood up and left. The moment he was gone, Emily shoved Red Bean away and turned toward me. Her expression twisted with rage. "Lynn, if you dare get close to Ryan again, I swear I won't let you off." No sooner had she said that than her face turned pale, and she collapsed onto the floor, her entire face swelling up. Her allergy to dog fur was severe, but just for the sake of putting on a show, she had forced herself to hold Red Bean in her arms. Now that her allergic reaction had kicked in, she looked like she was hanging on by a thread. Halfway down the hall, Ryan had started second-guessing the whole Red Bean situation. Something didn't sit right with him, so he turned back. As soon as he stepped into the corridor, he saw Emily lying on the floor, her face faintly purple. He rushed over, scooped her up, and glared at me. "Lynn, just because I love Emily, you're doing this to hurt her." I rubbed my temples, my head pounding from this ridiculous drama. "Are you done yet? This has nothing to do with me. Take her to a doctor." Emily couldn't even speak. Her face was flushed, bright red from lack of air, but Ryan still refused to leave. He stormed over and grabbed my arm. "Enough! How long are you going to keep this up? Emily's innocent. Why are you targeting her like this?" Right then, a calm voice cut through the chaos. "She's having an acute allergic reaction. She should be taken to the hospital immediately, not used as a prop in a tantrum that's wasting critical time." Ethan Moore had appeared out of nowhere, glanced at Emily, and promptly called 911. At the hospital, one look from the doctor confirmed it. Severe allergy, urgent treatment needed. But instead of caring for his girlfriend, Ryan clung to me, furious. "What did you do to her? What kind of trick did you use to trigger her allergy? Is this because you can't stand seeing me with Emily?" He was supposed to be worried about the woman convulsing on a hospital bed, but all he did was interrogate me like I was the problem. I stared at him and felt nothing but cold irony. Ethan held Emily's diagnosis sheet and said coolly, "A sudden allergic reaction to dog fur means she's recently been in contact with a dog, Mr. Miller. Clearly, you haven't been paying attention to your girlfriend's health. She's been around a dog and you didn't even stop her." Ryan froze, then instinctively looked at Emily lying in the hospital bed. A realization hit him. His body shuddered, and his face went pale. Without saying a word, he stumbled out of the room and ran away. For the next few days, I didn't see Ryan at all. I finally thought I could breathe freely again until Emily showed up at my studio. "Lynn, I'm here for class," she said, smiling as if nothing had happened. I refused her on the spot, but she just sneered. "Why not? I paid 2 years' worth of tuition. I haven't even finished the program, and now you want to kick me out?" I let out a cold laugh. She had insisted on paying for 2 years back then just to find more excuses to hang around Ryan. And now she was using that as leverage. Ridiculous. "I'll refund your money, just get out." But Emily didn't budge. I'm not taking a refund. I want to attend class, and if you don't let me, I'll tell everyone you took my money and refused to teach me. Let's see how long your training studio survives. My heart sank. The studio was still in its early stages. If she caused a scene, the reputation damage would be devastating. I had no choice but to let her stay. What I didn't expect was that on the third day of her being there, the studio was plastered with large posters. Emily is a homewrecker. Emily ruined Lynn's relationship. Emily curled up in the corner, face deathly pale. Before I could even ask what happened, a swarm of reporters rushed in. Miss Lynn, is it true that Miss Emily came between you and Mr. Miller? Were you betrayed? Is this a love triangle? Cameras and microphones surrounded me from all directions. Emily looked utterly heartbroken. Lynn, she cried. I've never wronged you. Why are you doing this to me? Ryan and I are truly in love. Even if you're upset, you shouldn't try to ruin me like this. The noise grew louder and the reporters around us instantly stirred, cameras zooming in on me. I looked at her with an expressionless face and clapped slowly. Your little self-directed drama? Not bad. A real waste if you don't go into acting. Emily froze for a moment, then burst into even louder sobs. Lynn, I know you hate me because of Ryan, but I never thought you'd use such cruel, vicious methods against me. I ignored her completely and ordered security to remove all the reporters from the studio. But before they could finish, Emily suddenly rushed up to me, screaming, You've ruined me. I'll make you regret this. Then, to everyone's horror, she bolted to the rooftop and climbed over the railing, threatening to jump. The entire scene was broadcast live. Ryan came rushing in furious and shouted at me. Emily is innocent. Even if you hate me, you shouldn't do this to her. If she dies, I'll never forgive you. I let out a bitter laugh. So this was the man I once loved. I must have been completely blind. I raised my hand and slapped him across the face. What did I do to her? All of this? She orchestrated it herself. Can't you see that? Ryan stared at me. I loved you all these years. I must have been blind too. I turned and walked away without another word. Ryan stood there, frozen, lips trembling, trying to say something. But Emily tugged at his arm, crying, It's all my fault. If I die, will Lynn stop hating me? Ryan's expression shifted instantly. He dropped everything and rushed to comfort her. It's not your fault. You did nothing wrong. Lynn's the one who's gone too far. Don't be scared. I'll get you down right now. Standing at the stairwell, I looked up and saw Ryan gently coaxing Emily back over the railing. I didn't look at them again. I just turned and walked away. The next morning, I arrived at the studio only to find a notice sealed to the front door. The property manager told me the landlord wanted to reclaim the space. You'll have to find another location, he said. My face turned pale. I understood instantly this was Ryan's doing. He was trying to back me into a corner for Emily's sake. Panicked, I went straight to confront him. Ryan, what exactly do you want from me? He grabbed my wrist tightly, letting out a cold laugh. You ruined Emily and now you have the nerve to ask me that? His eyes burned with rage. Everything about Emily has been exposed online. She's being attacked by thousands. Last night, she slit her wrists. If I hadn't gotten there in time, she'd be dead right now. She's lying in the hospital, barely clinging to life, and you're still standing here like nothing happened. Why should you get to be okay? My expression darkened. I didn't do any of that. Why would I want to hurt her? Ryan gave a bitter laugh, his gaze full of certainty. Don't pretend. Just because I loved Emily, you couldn't handle it. So you used these disgusting tactics to destroy her, all to force me to come back to you, right? I stepped back, stunned. This man was completely delusional. But he kept going. Lynn, even if it was for me this time. You've gone too far. I let a lot of things slide before, but now I want you to go online and clarify everything. Tell everyone you framed Emily, and then publicly apologize to her. He looked at me with a flicker of uncertainty. If you do that, I'll agree to get back together with you. I almost laughed out loud. If I posted a public confession, I'd be destroyed online. My safety wouldn't even be guaranteed. And he didn't care at all. It's not that serious, Ryan said dismissively. It's just a few mean comments. No real harm. If it means protecting Emily, what's a little sacrifice from you? I was completely speechless. Ryan, if you really think that way, I said coldly, then how about you go online and say it was all your fault? You were the one who couldn't keep it in your pants, who chased after people shamelessly and behaved like trash. Ryan's face darkened immediately. How could I say something like that? If word got out, my reputation would be ruined. Don't you care at all about what this would do to me? I let out a bitter, mocking laugh. He had no problem asking me to sacrifice my name and dignity for Emily, but when it came to himself, he instantly backed off. I looked at him with absolute disgust. Ryan, the fact that I once loved you, that's the biggest stain of my life. His face twisted with shock, humiliation, and rage all tangled together. I looked at him and felt nothing but emptiness. Take the modeling studio if you want. I don't need your charity to survive. I can make it on my own. I turned around and walked away. Behind me, Ryan shouted, "Lynn." He scrambled to chase after me, but in his rush, he suddenly fell hard to the ground. It was a heavy fall, and I could see the pain written all over his face, but I didn't stop walking. No matter how loudly he called after me, I never looked back. In the days that followed, I began searching for a new space for my studio, but every inquiry ended in rejection. I knew without a doubt Ryan was pulling strings behind the scenes to sabotage me. One day, after leaving yet another failed appointment with a rental agent, I saw a familiar figure ahead, Ethan Moore. He was dressed casually, shedding some of that usual icy sharpness, looking softer and more approachable. When he saw me, he cleared his throat awkwardly and said, "Lynn, I don't know if you'd be interested in becoming my etiquette coach. I may be a cultural expert," he continued, "but I still have to attend lectures and international conferences. Everything I do reflects on our country, so I can't afford to make any mistakes." At that moment, I had nowhere else to turn, so I nodded. "All right, I'll teach you." Ethan took the lesson seriously. When he attended events, he'd often invite me along to help him with styling and etiquette. As time passed, word began to spread. More and more clients came looking for me. I even started building my own personal brand online. Before I knew it, my career had taken a new turn, and I was preparing to open a new studio. Then one day, a colleague mentioned Ryan to me, said Emily had successfully married into the Miller family, but Ryan's health seemed to have taken a downturn. He was now seen mostly in a wheelchair and rarely appeared in public. I was stunned. I didn't know why, but I thought of the last time I saw him when he fell chasing after me, awkward and defeated. Something tugged at me. I hesitated, then asked Ethan, "Do you know anything about Ryan lately?" Ethan's expression remained calm. "Of course. I examined him just a couple of weeks ago. His emotional state is unstable, and even when conscious, he refuses to follow his rehabilitation schedule." He paused, his face growing more serious. "After the wedding, things got worse. His wife's been eager to have a baby, and their activities have been excessive. Ryan's health was already compromised, but now he's chasing physical pleasure without restraint. It's damaging his brain and nervous system. Right now, he's just in a wheelchair, but soon he might be completely paralyzed." I stood frozen, unable to move. My phone suddenly rang. It was Mrs. Miller. She told me Ryan was already paralyzed, his condition was worsening, and yet in his haze, he kept calling out my name. "Lynn," she begged. "Can you come see him just once? You don't have to forgive him. Just think of it as doing a favor for an old woman like me. Try to talk some sense into him, please." I couldn't bring myself to refuse. When I arrived at the old Miller estate, I pushed open the bedroom door and saw Ryan lying in bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. He had lost so much weight. His face was sunken, not a trace of life or flesh left in it. The hollows beneath Ryan's eyes had sunk deeply. When he heard the sound of the door opening, he turned his head to look at me, and suddenly his eyes turned red. "Then you came." I glanced around the room and realized Emily was nowhere to be seen. Mrs. Miller sighed and said, "Ever since she found out Ryan's condition had worsened, that woman said she was going abroad to clear her mind. She hasn't come back since." Ryan's eyes stayed fixed on me, tears brimming. His voice was choked. "Lynn, you're the woman of my dreams, aren't you?" He seemed like he wanted to reach out and touch me, but he couldn't even move his fingers. I had that dream many times afterward, he said. But the woman in the dream became less and less like Emily. Emily is selfish, cruel, greedy. She's nothing like the woman in my dreams. Then I finally realized the person in the dream had always been you, but I mistook her for Emily. I gave her all my affection and lost the one who truly loved me. I looked at him, my heart calm and steady. What's the point of saying any of this now? It was as if something inside Ryan shattered. He froze in place. I stared at him coldly and said clearly, Ryan, before your first coma, I told you I liked dogs. I even gave you a scarf I knitted myself, but you forgot what I said. You threw that scarf into the trash because you never truly cared about me. Ryan's face turned pale, his lips trembled, but he couldn't get a single word out. I lowered my gaze. Now that Emily's gone, you finally realized I was the only one who ever truly gave everything for you. So you've convinced yourself that I'm the one from your dream. But Ryan, you didn't wake up because you loved me. You didn't wake up because you finally saw the truth. You woke up because Emily left, and there's no one else around you willing to give you everything like I did. You're unwilling to accept that you can't stand being left behind, so now you want to cling to me. Ryan said nothing. The last light in his eyes flickered and faded, and he slumped like a withered tree, lifeless and empty. I didn't know how much time passed before he lowered his head and suddenly broke down into sobs. Lynn, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I looked at him. There was nothing left in my heart. Ryan, whatever was between us is over. With that, I turned to leave, but Ryan began shouting behind me like a madman. I know I messed up. We can start over. There's still time. We still love each other, don't we? I paused, turned around, and looked at him. Ryan, back then you helped me when I was at my lowest point. I remember that kindness. That's why I gave you the best 5 years of my youth in return. But you betrayed me. That kindness was only worth 5 years of goodwill, nothing more. When I finished speaking, I didn't stay any longer. I walked away without hesitation. Behind me, Ryan cried out in desperation. Lynn. I stepped out of the Miller estate and looked up at the sky, blue skies, white clouds, and a gentle breeze. It was a beautiful day. Back at the studio, I threw myself into work. My schedule was packed, and my life was full. That day, just as I finished a class with my students, I received a call. It was Ethan. Lynn, come to the window and look down. I walked to the window, and there he was, standing downstairs. He was dressed in a crisp white suit today, his broad shoulders and long legs making him look both elegant and striking. At that moment, he was holding a huge bouquet of white roses and looking up at me. When he saw me, Ethan smiled and raised a hand to wave. Through the phone, I heard his voice. Lynn, would you be willing to give me a chance? I stared down at Ethan, the bouquet of white roses cradled in his arms, the gentle breeze rustling his jacket, and the sunlight casting a soft glow on his quiet, composed face. In that moment, the noise of the past, the pain, the betrayal, the heartbreak faded into a distant hum. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel anger or regret. I felt peace. Maybe life didn't always give you the ending you once imagined. Maybe love didn't come from those you waited for, cried for, or broke for. Sometimes it came quietly, unexpectedly, from someone who simply showed up and stayed. I smiled, my heart finally light. I picked up the phone and answered softly, Yes, Ethan, I think I would. And just like that, I took the first step. Not back into the past, but forward into a life that was truly mine.